April 30th is the date that they essentially lost what they knew of as their life in Vietnam.
Every year, as spring breathes new life into the world, it also brings a choking reminder of loss, of a world left behind for thousands of Vietnamese people. The date is April 30th, 1975, and it's a day that would come to symbolize upheaval, fractured families, and the loss of hope.
Everybody running, everybody tried to get out.
Lan Nguyen was in Saigon when it fell to the communist regime in North Vietnam. American troops left and the city crumbled into chaos, terror. Lan escaped on a boat with her husband Loc, never saying goodbye to her parents.
We had to go in the cargo. And we lay on the floor because I missed my parents so much.
It was gut-wrenching. They lost everything. I mean, many of them actually lost family, right? People who died at war couldn't make it, escape. Some of them were sent into re-education camps, which are essentially prison camps. Most of them left everything behind.
And they couldn't look back. Lan and her husband arrived in Arkansas, where a sponsor named Mary Ellen Dixon took them in, found them a place to live, taught them English, gave them food.
When my husband and his friend get the job, they don't have a car. She had to take them to work and take them back home.
A kind stranger whom these refugees in a strange new world would never forget. The Nguyen's eventually left to start their own life, but it was a lonely one, and for Lan, crushing in its sorrow.
She lived 30 years in Vietnam, right? I mean, that's a life, that's most of my life. All of a sudden, that's gone. You're a stranger in a new country, and there were nights that she didn't want to go home because it wasn't even a home.
Sometimes, I sit on the train and I just let it go around because every stop I want to look and see if I can see any familiar face.
She never did. Eventually, the Nguyen's made their way to Texas, where their only child, Thomas, was raised in KATY. There, he saw discrimination his parents faced, the bullying his father endured because of his heavy accent.
It's difficult when you're 6 or 7 years old and your dad is furious, but he doesn't know what to do because he has to provide for the family. And he can't lash out, he can't do anything.
The Nguyen's experience wasn't singular. In the 70s, when thousands of poor Vietnamese refugees from fishing villages arrived in Houston and became shrimpers, racial tensions erupted.
A lot of Vietnamese became shrimpers in places like Galveston or Kima. In Kima, there was a really terrible situation where the Ku Klux Klan came out because a lot of these guys who had been shrimping from the area, white guys, were upset that the Vietnamese were coming into the area. And so the KKK came out and threatened the Vietnamese, and I mean, there were gunshots exchanged.
Now, about 40 years later, the Vietnamese community here thrives at more than 100,000 people. In the heart of Bel Air, the Vietnamese built a memorial, an American and a Vietnamese soldier side by side in combat to honor the sacrifices of the Americans who died in their homeland. It's a symbol of harmony and gratitude for a group once ostracized but now celebrated in Houston. And within this community, this son of poor refugees would eventually go on to earn his law degree from UT Austin. Now, Thomas is an owner of a popular restaurant in the Galleria.
Almost every single Vietnamese person that lives in Houston came over here sometime after, 1975. And as a result of escaping Vietnam and coming here for an opportunity for another life.
That opportunity made possible by the kindness of a stranger decades ago, one the Nguyen's left and couldn't find again. But we looked and we found Mary Ellen Dixon in Arkansas, and after 41 years, reconnected her to the Nguyen's.
We both cried. We were so grateful to you to putting us back together because we had lost one another's contact information.
Mary Ellen had never forgotten the culture the Nguyen's brought into her home.
I spoke to both my children just before I talked to you, and they are so grateful for the experience. Both of them said it had changed their whole lives and their perspective and made them more empathetic toward other people. Locke was the one who loved to do the cooking, and he always had this great big sunny smile on his face, and my son said Locke was my favorite because he made the best French fries in the whole wide world.
Just as the Nguyen's changed her children's lives, so has Mary Ellen for Thomas. Someone took a chance once on his parents, and now he's giving it back devoting his life to helping different groups around Houston. And whenever the 30th of April comes, they remember and pray for all they've lost and all they've found.
So I want people to remember the communists and the 30th of April, a really, really terrible day for us, for our country.
That story needs to be told and retold because it shouldn't ever be forgotten. Our parents shouldn't be the only ones thinking about April 30th.
April 30th, a fall, but from the rubble, a rise into the extraordinary Houston we know today.